ni hao, xin zhao, whatever else your greeting of choice may be, from Shanghai, China. That's probably one of the last few times I'm going to be able to say that, as we're now less than 3 weeks out from the big move to Vietnam. We're heading down to Fuzhou tomorrow, and then we'll be spending the weekend in my old home city of Quanzhou, before coming back to Shanghai for a week or so to get packed, before flying out to Hanoi and then on to Haiphong to start a new chapter in our lives. After 14 amazing years, I'm finally going to be saying goodbye to China. This video is going to be a bit of a farewell to my second home. I'm sure I'll make a lot more content about China and my life and adventures here, but for now, I just want to list a few of the things I'm going to miss. One thing I'm going to miss from a practical standpoint is WeChat, more specifically the convenience of having access to WeChat. You see, WeChat does basically everything. When we went down to Fujian last week, all of our hotels and our train tickets were booked through WeChat. Our taxis to and from the train station, well, those weren't actually booked through WeChat, although we could have done. There is an option for that. Just like there's an option to order takeaway, or top up my mobile phone, or pay my gas, electricity and water bills, pay for shopping both online and offline, sign up for a trail race or a marathon, make appointments for a whole bunch of different services, and just about a million other things that I can do directly through this one single app. From a security and personal information standpoint, I'm sure it's an absolute nightmare, but in terms of convenience, it's going to be very hard to replace. Speaking of convenience, and speaking of speaking, I'm going to miss living in a country where I actually know how to speak the language. I'll be the first to admit that my Chinese should be a lot better, considering how long I've lived here, but my Vietnamese isn't even in the same galaxy. I got to the point where language was no longer an obstacle for me in everyday life a long time ago. And for the last 6 years, working as a translator, I've been lucky enough that I can make a living out of what I've learned. In a week or so, I'm going to be flying straight back to the Stone Age, struggling to navigate the simplest of shopping trips, and worried that I might not make it to my destination every time I step on a bus. And for the record, that's entirely on me. I've had years to learn Vietnamese, and I've done an embarrassingly poor job of it. Putting aside that we just got back from Fuzhou, culinary wonderland that it is, I'm going to miss the food in China a lot. Vietnamese food is exceptional, but very different. And I'm going to miss the variety and diversity that a country of this size offers. And beyond just the local food, leaving Shanghai, I think I'm also going to miss the easy access to global cuisine that a city of this size offers. This one's more of a recent development, but I'm going to miss all of the wonderful running routes that I have easy access to here in Shanghai. While I'm sure that I'm going to find some great places to run in Haiphong, I doubt that there'll be as many, or that they'll be quite as picturesque as those that I have right outside my doorstep here in Changning. I've spent so many hours of the last few years along the banks of Suzhou Creek that this really has become quite a special place for me. And that's not to mention all of the other routes and all of the beautiful parks in Shanghai and beyond, where I've plodded out my mileage over the last however many years. And lastly, an honourable mention, only because it's so weird to be saying this, to the heat. The one thing I thought I would never miss about China is the weather, particularly the temperature. But as I'm moving to somewhere where it's unbearably hot for even more of the year than it is here, I think I'm actually going to miss the Chinese winters, as short as they may be. But hey, hopefully it won't rain quite so much in Vietnam. Something which, despite all of the stereotypes that people are so happy to repeat to me, it does significantly more here than it ever did back in the UK. That said, with Haiphong's location, I wouldn't be surprised if it rains even more. I'm going to miss far more than that about Shanghai, and I'm going to miss all of the other places that I've lived and that I've travelled to too. In fairness, I miss those places already, but it still bears mentioning. We were back in Quanzhou over the weekend visiting friends, and it's just one of the cities where I have so many wonderful memories, including Hunan, although not a city, Chengdu, Guilin, Shanghai, and yes, even Fuzhou. These places and the people I've met and known in them have shaped me. Like most people, I'm not the same person I was now in my mid to late 30s as I was in my early 20s. And I'm going to miss all of these places that have genuinely become a huge part of who I am. Not to mention all of the amazing people that I've been blessed to meet along the way. Whether brief acquaintances or good friends, I may be terrible at keeping in touch, but I do truly feel fortunate to have shared so many great times with so many incredible people. Let's be real, there's so many things, people, memories and experiences that I'm going to miss or already do miss from my years of living in this country. It's hard to believe that I'm finally leaving this place that I came to originally for a year, well over a decade ago. It's also terrifying, but above all, it's reminding me of so many cherished memories from so many different places and times. I can never go back to being so young and quite so stupid and experiencing the world with the same naivety and wonder that I did when I first arrived all those years ago. And that's just part of growing up. I know that there are plenty of new experiences awaiting us in Vietnam, to be experienced through older, wiser eyes, maybe less easily given over to awe and wonder, but that doesn't mean that I don't plan to enjoy every single one just as much. China, thank you. You will always be a special part of who I am, and so will the people who shared in my adventure and let me share in some small part of theirs.